as we know, last week a number of things happened. Uh, in no particular order, we got a call from the Kai Arso. Um, I'm not sure if it's well illuminating or muddying the situation, but um, she essentially decided that she would come to Bahara personally. Something that is apparent is that she knew about the red orb. How did she know? Well, most likely Admiral Janeway told her. Janeway herself is headed to Bahara as well on the USS Voyager. Um, and as and as Jill and Desesh both started to receive their first of, well, what I hope is um, a uh, a first. Sorry, I'm having word troubles. So hopefully it doesn't persist. Hopefully it's just at the start. Um, but hopefully the first of many, as both of them managed to leave Pharaoh's office. Well, not completely healed. And speaking of not completely healed, down on the surface, the captain and Vanderveer witnessed Dasan playing with the children right before they met the Kai, and well witnessed something that might not be oh so healthy on Bahara. And if I remember correctly, it seemed to be a bit of what was noticed was with at least with the child, a little bit of a little bit less weight um, was going on the right side. He seemed to be favoring the left, and as Vanderveer and the captain, uh, bless you, as Vanderveer and the captain looked over to the Kai and the other, uh, we'll call him nameless Baharan in the room, cleaning the ark, they realized that it seemed to be a common trend. Well, um, the at least these three Baharans all seem to be favoring uh, their left side. As well, we will actually start today down on Bahara um, with the captain and Vanderveer, Molly, and the fourth Maxwell. Uh, as the four of them are. Oh, Kit's not there anymore. He ran upstairs. As I'm. You know what? I'm just gonna. Uh, I'll be honest. I can't remember perfectly if we initiated the conversation with the Kai, but I know it was at the end of last session. So if nothing else, I'm gonna say to the two of you as the Kai um, walks uh, his.
No, no. Mm-mm. Nope, nope, nope. Hell no. Nope, no. Mm-mm.
Oh, this man knows how to reach for those spotlight milestones. All I'm saying. Uh, um, as as the Kai of Bahara comes walking to the two of you, his gait almost imperceptibly shuffled. He looks to you and says, "Well, welcome to Bahara."
the captain will smile and say, "Yes, I'm sorry we haven't met earlier. Uh, Captain Nero Morgana," she says. She'll observe, she'll shake his hand, obviously, the equivalent of.
Oh, well met, he says, and looking over to uh, the stouter figure, he says, "And you, my good man?"
As Caleb is muted, we wait.
Sorry, what?
Uh, as the Kai, nodding to the captain and telling her well met, turns to you. He says, and you, my good man. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. And you can also see that your height is a little bit more typical of the average Baharan than the captain's height. So as he kind of nods at you both, one of you a little above eye level and one of you a little below, um, he says, uh, um, he says, and if you must be associated with the last group.
Uh, yes, that was my second in command and a few other officers, she says.
Ah, he says, smiling and kind of whispers to himself, um, Kai of Kai of your castle.
She thinks about it and says, in a manner of speaking, I suppose. Um, hmm, right. She'll smile at the man and ask, "I apologize, this may not be appropriate, but, uh, may I ask a, medical question?" she says. I don't know, I don't know if my executive officer relayed, but we are a medical ship, she says, with a smile.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? He says, actually matching your smile and well, I would say upping the ante by widening it just slightly, and and as he uh, as he says that, or as he does that, he asks, "Well, that's quite a noble gesture, and do you simply go around looking for wounded, or?"
If we manage upon them, usually we handle larger scale uh, issues, she says. But she says, other than that, we'll treat the wounded we find, she says.
Oh, well, that's worthy of, well, both praise and pride.
She nods.
And, well, uh, he kind of gives you a bit of a chuckle. Uh, you, I'm afraid you won't find too many wounded here. certainly the occasional aches and pains from work on the farm, but uh, well, we don't we don't often we're pretty healthy by and large, and well, we we think and he just kind of motions to the ark. We're very thankful for that.
She nods. She says, "Sorry, it was just that my race," she says, "the Elorians, we're very perceptive. We have great eyesight." She says, "We notice things. And I just noticed that you were favoring one side over the other. And as a physician, I was concerned."
Oh, he kind of he kind of chuckles. Oh, of course. No, no, it's summer. Um, oh, well, of course you probably wouldn't understand.
I'll be back in just a moment.
No, you're good. Um, in in summertime, well, uh, it simply gets a little bit hotter, and well, we seem to all react to that the same. We tire out a bit, but that's a natural response to it being hotter.
She, she'll, maintaining a pleasant voice. "Well, would, if I were to ask, would there be anyone that you would think that would, uh, this is a very unique condition, and, well, I'm a very curious person," she says with a smirk.
You need a
Pleasant,
test
but
subject, he says, with a bit of a small smile.
no.
Sorry about that.
I
Hello.
Hello.
see. He, she says, pointing at him, at the doctor, is, well, quite the physician, she says, and it would be no different than a medical exam from any of your healers.
With a bit of an raised eyebrow, he says, "And is it invasive?"
She turns to the doctor, since he's going to be the one performing the test to find out why these people limp like this.
Invasive? No, I probably won't even need to actually touch you. It'll just be by a scan. I mean, even just visually, I can make a couple of decent guesses as to what's going on. With your permission, of course.
Looking, looking, uh, I'm not 100% sure the word. Looking, pleasant, but with a dash of concern. Um, he says, "Is there a way to limit it so that it's just one person?"
One person being examined or doing the examination?
Being examined.
Ideally, I would have several different subjects to compare, but it's not entirely necessary, no.
One person should be fine, she says.
Simply,
Uh,
simply at first, he says, I would, of course, like to, uh, ex- I would like to see the after effects of such a procedure before we would proceed further. I
Oh
just
yes, no changes to be made except to an individual to see how it would work, and I wouldn't ask for multiple scans until I notice something abnormal. I'm just hesitant to make any promises before I have even anything resembling a preliminary finding.
She says, and this is just how easy it is. She'll take out her medical tricorder and scan herself, uh, and then put the little probe thing back, just to prove that it is only one person.
as you before you actually get to the scan, as you take out the instrument,
If
um,
he stops her, she stops.
he turns his uh, body slightly away from you, and you can hear him kind of slightly raised voice say crisply, Savan. And as the person tending to the ark looks around, uh, you can see the Kai clap twice quickly, and Savan starts to head out of the room. And I would say he'd as you're he'd probably get to the clapping point um,
Mm-hmm.
by the time you would probably be able to make that decision of do you want to stop or
She smiles and says, "Oh, that I was just." She says, and she won't finish taking out the tricorder. She'll put it back, but just pull out the little like scanner probe and not holding it to use it, just holding it up and says, "This is all that will be usually required. Well, that and the tricorder," she says.
as you're doing that and saying that you can see well
She'll put it back.
apparently Savan head out of the room and start walking up the stairs. And the Kai looks to you and says, "Very well. You may start with me."
She nods. Did the doctor bring a medical kit? If not, the captain will give him her tricorder, which is a medical one.
Say he's got one tucked in his coat.
Okay.
Alrighty, then. Well, I'm not gonna make it a difficulty 0 roll. I'm gonna make it a difficulty 2, but I will give you guys an assist. As Vanderveer pulls out the tricorder, and as the Kai kind of realizing that that is essentially the instrument that will be doing the lion's share of the work, turns to face it, and you can see him kind of instinctually kind of stand a little bit straighter and puff out his chest towards the device as why don't you guys give me a control reason or insight with medicine difficulty 2.
Yeah, the captain will assist by, scanning, like getting the back end. She'll let him know that she's coming behind him. But, yeah, that's how she'll assist.
Phrasing.
Just for a momentum.
There is 0 momentum.
Oh, right.
Yep. Xenobiology or genetics as a focus.
That I will take.
Okay.
Okay then. Well, that's a way to start. As managing to gain the squad 3 momentum, you start to to scan the Kai, and as you as the results kind of start to filter throughout both of your screens, perhaps the two tricorders working in tandem, causing it to truly shed some light on the situation. Uh, you can you can see that essentially what's going on here is his body is failing um, to produce a specific enzyme, and as that in and of itself isn't the world's largest problem in the beginning. It's apparently snowballing into the fact that his entire body is showing signs of slight muscular degradation. Uh, there's probably a few other symptoms. I'm just seeing what would actually show up on the scan um,
Atrophy.
due to something with his cornea. He probably has slightly blurry vision. Um, and interestingly enough, you notice that the hormone that would typically govern rage for a Bajoran, um, it's almost there's a complete inability to produce that within his body structure.
Well, we'd say that would be a good thing in the medical industry. The rest of it, not so much. Um,
And
Kai, if I may, please, remain where you are, she says. And she'll look back at Vanderveers and then step back a little bit and basically, do the how many fingers am I holding up, getting further and further back as she can until, you know. She'll do the, like, she'll have him cover one eye and then cover the other and, an eye test.
excellent. And as he appears remarkably amused by all of this, you can see him really kind of getting into it. And at first, there's no issue whatsoever. He's passing with flying colors on both eyes, but as you start to back away and you get to the point that should still be within range of his vision to determine. You can see him almost instinctually, kind of kind of uh, jut his head just slightly forward and squeeze his eyes as he still
She'll
manages.
she'll correct him and say, please hand over and don't move your head, she says.
Oh, and as he dutifully does so, you can see almost habitually him as you move back, attempting to do just that. However, he does manage to catch himself, and you can see him kind of constantly doing that as you perform this test, and you kind of you definitely are able to determine that while he can certainly see and is in no way blind, his vision, at least certainly compared to Bajorn's, which genetically he is, um, it does seem to be lacking.
She'll, uh, she'll say, well, That was enlightening. She'll, look at, she won't hide anything from the Kai. She'll, say to Vanderveers, eye strength in the right eye, 2020, left eye, 20, or it was the other way around.
Yes.
Right eye 2020, left eye like 2045 or something.
Actually, interestingly enough, no. Both eyes are equally bad.
Oh, okay. Well, then she'll say 2045 for both eyes then.
During this whole eye exam, Vanderveer standing with his arms crossed, not frowning or scowling, but kind of just observing, intently looking.
You can.
Congratulations, you figured out that he needs glasses. Do you mind if I... He kind of rolls his hand over a couple times.
She'll step aside, like, by all means.
I do also want to do a type of eye exam, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask him to follow my finger. And I'm going to take my finger from left to right, cross his eye line a couple times. And what I'm looking for is the muscles of the eyes, they don't move smoothly. They sort of have little jumps. So I want to see if, while his eyes trace my finger, if the one on the weak side has a larger space between jumps where it actually moves compared to his other eye. And this would let me know if it's something muscular or nervous.
Why don't you give me an insight medicine or reason medicine difficulty 1?
Third dice for momentum.
Done and done. Bringing you down to 2.
Focus on neurology.
Yeah. Giving you back that momentum.
Roll a 0.
Yep. Giving you back another. I'm not used to you having cautious. As you gain 2 momentum, replacing the one you used and one more, you quickly determine that the jump that you're looking for does not exist. However, there is a exceedingly slight and almost imperceptible delay as he moves to follow your finger. It's something that you've typically seen with people who are fatigued.
Well, I do have an idea that it might be something involved with your endocrine system.
To which the Kai says, and, well, quite frankly, I feel fully fine after your examination. And, well, it was even quite fun. So, I will... This is... You have also people of our people with you, it would seem. So, should you need more... And he says... He uses the phrase again with a bit of a smile. Should you need more test subjects, I'll spread the word that you are free to temporarily take whom you wish.
No, just as a reminder for myself, you said that we'd seen some kids earlier that also displayed a similar condition.
Yes, sir.
Looking at him,
It was worse.
okay, that actually would make sense. But looking at him, is there like a noticeable amount of muscular atrophy? Like, is his one arm any thinner substantially than his other arm or leg, or the fold on the face, the nasolabial crease, that
Uh,
you, like laugh lines. Like, is that? Does he have it on both sides, or is there one where it's kind of like with Bell's palsy, where it's nice and smooth still?
there's pretty much, from what you can see, no real difference. And I'll remind you though that it was pretty miraculous that you guys were able to determine or observe this as it was. It's a very slight condition. It's just you guys have extremely good eyes when it comes to looking for this.
Okay.
Uh, she looks at the doctor and says, I can have uh, one of the medical shuttles sent down for you if you would like to set up here, doctor.
Yeah, sure. Kai, were you born here?
Of course.
The captain will excuse herself and let the doctor talk and call down the medical shuttle, letting Desesh know, yada yada.
Actually, speaking of Desesh, let's rewind about 20 minutes. Um, and you know what? I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure why, but Jill, as you leave Pharaoh's office and start to head out, all of the sudden, almost comically, you reach a junction of the Nightingale's hallway, and straight ahead of you, you can see Desesh just turning into it. The two of you now facing, and as you see movement in both of your peripherals, you see over to your right. You can see Kiana just almost doing the same, coming out a doorway and heading towards that junction. And to your left, you can see Dagon simply strolling along, his mouth in a bit of a whistle.
As far as Jill's concerned, coming to a four-way stop, she'll just just give a plate nod, let the others pass.
Well, Dagon certainly won't, as he looks to the three of you. Um, Two of you who are technically, kind of off shift, and one of you who creates their own timetable, really. Um,
Speaking of which, I'm actually probably asleep right now because it's alpha shift still.
that's fair. Then I'm gonna say this kind of happened on your way to going to sleep.
Okay.
Um, as he kind of looks at the three of you and says excitedly, "Well, isn't this a coincidence? Three of my well, two of my favorite people on the ship, and one who I'd like to get to know to become a favorite.
Hello, Dagon.
Commander, or should I say, commanders?"
Jill just nods.
What brings you up here?
Oh, I was just. As I told you, this ship, she's just shaped so beautifully, and I was just taking a stroll. But now I can see. Well, you know what? Given where we are and given who I'm talking to, perhaps he says with a bit of a warm smile. He says, "Perhaps the prophets are smiling on us. As you know, I've been taking a turn in the galley, and well, I noticed that she has a bit of a holographic. She has holographic emitters. It's quite a novel idea, if you ask me. But I was, well, hey, you know what? Now that you guys are here, I was wondering if you could approve some of the changes that I've made. And
Cha-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Changes that you've already made?
Well, it's a hologram, Commander. It's quite easy to pause and delete. And looking at Kiana, he almost, both of you can see him kind of momentarily forget that, that he's talking with you as he crosses into the middle of the intersection, as it were, to um, walk over to Kiana and say, "And you, madam, I'm not even sure if we've met yet. It's nice to meet you. I'm Dagon."
Hello, I'm Kiana.
I'll be cooking your food.
Thank you.
What are you trying to convey?
Sorry?
Uh, oh no,
I
I was curious what the presence commander was.
Oh, that was for Desesh to avoid giving away how irritated he was when the changeling talked about the prophets.
Ah, that's fair. How do you do?
Well, on 2 successes, you'll tell me.
Um, you know what? I'll put it like this: if Dagon did notice the irritation, he wisely chose to ignore it. And as he continues to talk to Kiana and says, "And I'll be cooking your food from now on." And well, surely you'd like to see where the magic happens, and you're a senior staff as well. So hey, you know what? You can be in on the decision too. Well, at least if they say it's okay.
Oh, I feel so pricked.
Desesh walks over to Lawson while Dagon's attention is taken up, and he just sort of says to Lawson, "Take care of this, please."
All he's gonna get is she's gonna blow some hair out of her face. That's the initial reaction she gets, and will just nod to as a subtle way to tell him to keep walking.
Yeah, he's out of here.
What the hell was that about?
Looking at the form of the retreating Desesh for a moment, with a little bit of a pouty frown, you can see Dagon kind of shrug his shoulders as he says, "Well, you know what? Some people don't care about where they eat, simply what, and well, I think we must respect that."
I'm sure it's fine, Dagon, but yeah, maybe in a few hours, Kiana and I can take a look and make sure you haven't done anything atrocious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he says with a nod. Well, I suppose, is it okay if I continue my stroll?
Did you disable your changes until we had a chance to look at it?
Of course, he says, and as you see a comm badge kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, melt out of him, he hits it as he says, "Computer, please, please pause and momentarily. I'm so sorry."
You're good.
He says,
I just need my
he says, "You know, please pause and hold program Dagon 2 Dagon Alpha 2 until further notice. And you see the comm badge melt back into him.
That's disconcerting.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a lingering look because, yeah, first few years ago they were just fighting these people, and now there's one on the ship that's giving them a fair shake, but still, that's weird.
Yeah.
Fair enough, Dagan. And she'll gesture down the hallway.
And
Go ahead.
ladies, I look forward to a couple hours, he says with a smile, and walking down the corridor, seemingly oblivious to the the unhappy feelings of his presence. After about 9 or 10 steps, you can start to hear the whistling start again, and while it's slightly off tune, while it's slightly off tune, if anyone would know the old Earth ditty "Singing in the Rain," that is what he's whistling as he turns a corner.
Kiana will lean into Jill and go, "What the hell was that? Am I the only one getting the weirdo vibes?"
He's not accustomed to other people, I suppose. I just hope his mention of 2 hours doesn't seem what they would expect of most Horizons, because she shakes her head with a shiver.
Kiana will chuckle.
But you need to ask whenever you're ready to get back to your projects. I can help. I have some free time.
And that would be great. Are you on your way anywhere right now?
Actually, I was on the way back to your lab.
Oh, perfect. Perfect timing then.
And time writes itself.
What
Yeah.
do you want to start with first?
Well, we already did we started the disaster check, but you still have your project, making a chronoton deterrent, so I guess we can start with that.
Sounds like a plan.
And I did get that right. It was chronoton particles that affected the power rates.
That is correct. I want a chronoton weapon.
No weapons made on my ship, damn it.
So, and you'll just be thinking out loud with this. Chronoton particles are almost an aspect of time itself. Affect those, and you affect time and space, or what you do. So I'd have to be careful with that. But those small doses might be just fine.
Yeah, I can keep the small amount contained so we can work on it safely.
So, there's a number, I think, ways to go about this. I think no matter what, I think what's warranted is a little bit of. Well, actually, no. I will. Instead of giving you guys any ideas, how do you guys want to go about this? You want to build a time gun, essentially.
Well, there's multiple applications possible. We can condense and make a stream, much like a phaser. We can make it a wave, or even just make a field similar to a force field.
For nothing, when she assigned it to Kiana, she did say Chronoton Shield.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of going.
I will say that's substantially easier.
Let's see. Yeah, we'll have to be careful with that because there is a good possibility you could lock yourself in time. And whether or not that means the world around you is frozen or you are frozen, it's an unknown consequence. No, really wouldn't want that anyways.
Just out of curiosity, Kiana and Jill, why don't you guys both make me an insight science roll? For you, Kiana, the difficulty is going to be 2. For you, Jill, the difficulty is going to be 4.
Can I twist that around to just do an assist with Kiana and let her use the ship's computers as part of the research?
No, because I am fishing for a light bulb moment.
Okay.
Or a triggered memory, as it were. And just because it's Kiana's main field, then I think she would have an easier time with this.
Unconventional thinking for the focus.
That's interesting. I actually need 2 seconds to think about that. I am leaning towards yes.
Or computer systems.
I think computer systems. Let's go with computer systems.
Okay.
5 dice.
Oh, we do. Yeah. Spend a momentum and get another dice. Okay, go.
And Starfleet protocols would be a focus as well.
Okay. And take a threat.
Well, Jill, as you oh, well, still, or that'll still work as you kind of puzzle over the issue for just a moment. You can see kind of Kiana's face have a bit of a breakthrough as while the mission itself was most likely the specifics were out of Kiana's reach. The research papers that came out of it were not. As you remember from the USS Enterprise D under command of Captain Picard, there was an incident where both the Enterprise and the Romulan warbird were caught in what was essentially a bubble of exceedingly slow moving time. And to kind of do a little bit of research on that, the Enterprise crew devised I forget what they called it, but it was essentially a temporal barrier, a way to kind of shield your own self from a incursion, I suppose, in what you perceive to be normal space-time. And while the application unfortunately didn't have much to do with chronotons, it's if nothing else, a branching off point or a jumping off point.
Yeah, that's actually what she was. That event was actually what we were leaning off of as far as potentially getting stuck as a way to avoid. But yeah, we'll pull up what schematics we can of that device and start figuring out how to reapply it for Chronoton machine.
The device itself is certainly easily replicatable, if you wanted, and the schematics are easily available. And as you do, you know what? I have an interesting way to do this. Why don't you give me, and this one can be an assist. Let's go with difficulty 2. Science and engineering. I'm sorry. Reason or control with engineering, which once again I think both of you would have a focus on this one. But if I'll basically tell you, if you pass, I'll tell you the kind of the roadblocks and to why it, quote, can't just be flipped over to Chronoton. And then yeah.
Kiana, I'll let you do the main role. I'll assist you because reasons.
Okay, spend another moment to get a dice. Alright, go for it.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh. You can.
It works. You may blow up.
Well, you can spend 2 momentum just to squash the complication, or spend a determination to reroll.
Squash it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just squash it. Can the ship still assist with no successes?
I'll let you assist, but I'll lock off the ship for that. But I will probably offer you to succeed with complication.
Okay. Alright. Here's the assist. And because of that... Wait. Shoot. You said... we could do insider control, reason, or something else?
This one was control or reason with engineering.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask for that to have been reason instead? The roll would have still succeeded for 1.
Yeah,
Reason being, it would
unlock
let
a talent, I imagine.
yeah, it lets Kiana reroll 1 of her dice.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So I just have to ask before I put any momentum back. Which dice was rerolled? Was it one of the white zeros?
It was. It would have been the complication if that was the voice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, but how unfortunate. But as the two of you kind of get down to try to see what you can do about flipping this thing over, you can see Kiana kind of really start to struggle a bit as she just I'm not sure. You see her struggle, but as you kind of lean in and give her a couple words of encouragement, you can see that that's actually starting to have an effect. And as the work starts to race on, and well, you go back to joining her in the actual work, you can see that um, there is a couple problems. Basically, uh, what this device is it's essentially a private shield generator that's tuned to a specific frequency that uh, essentially creates a cocoon of stable space time. However, and I'm just double checking one thing to make sure I get this right. Oh, okay. Looks like I got it wrong. You, you realize that while the shield itself would be successful in blocking chronotons, I apologize. Um, there's gonna be several long-term effects from repeated usage. Essentially, it almost looks like as you snap it on and off, there's some sort of space-time equalization that that occurs, and doing so too often would lead to a certain drastic mental medical effects, for one. The other major issue that you guys can see with it is that its power is a little bit limited. While it could definitely feasibly protect you in a chronoton field, if old readings were correct, it would be easily overpowered by the paw wraiths.
So if we want it to actually be effective, we have to find a way to up the output. Because so far what we have is something that'll give you time sickness, and it's still not going to be effective.
Yeah, time sickness is no joke.
Well, actually, just as let's say that just as you guys are kind of starting to huddle together to tackle that particular issue, we're gonna flip away for a moment, and actually, as the medical ship beams down, Captain, you can hear in your comm badge start to chirp as you're a little bit away from everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Captain, you can hear the voice of Goodman say, it appears that we have a transmission coming in for you. It's from Commander Arif on Deep Space 17.
Live or recorded?
Live, ma'am.
She thinks for a moment. Ask him the regards.
one moment, ma'am," he says, and the line goes dead for about 15, 20 seconds. And Goodman says, he said he was hoping to talk with you. However, he didn't want to give me much details, though he did say it could wait for a bit. But if you could return the message as soon as you can.
She says, yes, tell him I will call him later. I'm a little busy at the moment. She says, and if you could, I require Commander Desash down here, please.
From okay, and the line goes dead, and okay, Desesh, as just as you're hitting the bed and getting ready to sleep, the comm badge chirps.
Sesh.
Commander, you can hear Goodman's voice say, the captain, I'm sorry to bother you, sir, but the captain has requested you down on the planet.
I'm on my way. Thank you.
Of course, sir. And
I
you can
get
hear
back
her.
in my uniform.
And a couple minutes later, Desesh beams down.
No. Captain?
He says, Commander?
Can you remind me where am I when I beam down?
We would be, if the medical shuttle's down there, they'd be at that, I would think.
Okay, I'm in the medical
That's
shuttle.
a good point. That's a good point. Let me bring you guys to probably
An open area.
I mean, if you're summoning a metal shuttle, maybe I just fly it down.
I mean, that's fair enough.
works for me.
So, I will state now, out of character, this is twofold. This is one, so Vanderveer has a healthy Bajoran as a control.
Actually going to call for Desesh's help as well, so this actually makes me not have to do that.
And two, if she has to get called away, at least there will be a command officer down here. Also, you have a relationship with the people, yada yada.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I arrive and I'm wearing my Dajapa, and one of the things that you guys see as the door opens is that Cash is with me in the shuttle.
Wow. She says it's kind of sad that he can't go running in this lovely field. She says,
I think there's about a 30-foot range, but yeah.
30 meter range, 100 feet.
Yeah.
fair enough.
And you can see Cash looking a bit at the outside and kind of sniffing the air. However, he quite dutifully has remained quite still.
Mm-hmm. You'll find that Cash actually seems to just be watching Desesh. That seems to be what his job is right now. But he says, "All right, Captain. I brought the medical shuttle. How can I be of assistance?"
Well, your responsibilities will be twofold, she says. With Voyager coming, I may get called away. So we will need a command officer down here. And two, you're one of the healthiest Bajorans I know.
For the record, just so you guys know, you do have Voyager's arrival time. It's in about It's about halfway through Alpha Shift of the next day, so you guys have about 24 hours.
Yes, she's also expecting to be down here with Vanderveer's sleeves rolled up. That's kind of the point. Because she doesn't think that this is going to be just yes, they could probably get it done in a day, but Vanderveer's reminds her too much of Bones to know that he's just going to leave it.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. And like she said, she'll turn to Disesh and say, plus, we need a healthy specimen for their genetic code, as it were.
There's something wrong with their genetic code?
There's a few things wrong, although they don't seem to notice very much. I think the doctor can fill you in.
Yeah, I look to the doctor, and we can sort of assume that I'm filled in on what discoveries have been made thus far, as much as my one medicine will allow.
No, actually, this gives me a good transition to what I was going to do to Disesh.
Okay, here we go.
I want to ask Disesh to come into the shuttle so I can do some medical scans with some privacy, doctor-patient confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
So when he starts, he's going to gesture to take off the Dajapa because he's got his little brain scrambler in there.
Yeah. You can see him hesitate and look at Cash when he does so, but he does so. Takes it off, turns it off when he does so.
While he goes up and down with the scanner, he's just going to give him some idle banter. Yeah, their genetics are all screwed up.
What do you suppose might have caused something like that?
No clue. Could be something atmospheric, could be something else. There doesn't seem to be a medical explanation. And that guy's the guy, so that really sucks.
I mean, they're colonists. Could it be an inbreeding thing?
Oh no, I hadn't considered it. Oh, yeah, while we're on the subject, that earring you got with the thing. You remember that hypo I gave you a while back?
Yeah?
Yeah, that was saline. Didn't do nothing. Probably made you pee a lot.
I had considered the possibility, Doctor.
Yeah, placebo, totally.
I mean, I understand why you might have done something like that, Doc, but it doesn't feel good to not be taken seriously.
What was that?
Very well.
As he's still doing his scans, what he's trying to do is elicit some kind of stress response that he can measure.
Well, Disesh is irritated.
So just out of character, he is intentionally trying to set Disesh off by being dismissive, and it's for the scams.
Mm-hmm.
So if he is irritated, that'll give him his.
Definitely like visual, like on a stress response, but he'd be trying to be professional about it.
Now the best thing is going to be when Vanderveer does get the spike, he's just going to lean into it as much as he can and be like, "Well, that'll be it. I'm done." Yeah, and he's going to walk out with the scan still going, but Disesh doesn't know that.
Okay. Well, Disesh kind of just sort of like looks irritatedly at the doc as he leaves and sits down in the thing, and Cash probably comes up and he just kind of pets Cash for a little bit and says, and he says, "I know."
To which
Now, while I review the tricorder results, if I need a medical roll, I will totally do that.
Absolutely. Why don't you give me a control medicine or reason medicine difficulty? I think difficulty 1.
I get why he did it. I get why he did it too, because Disesh can feel anger and irritation these people can't.
Oh yeah, no, I see what he's doing, but Disesh doesn't.
No. So we'll have to deal with that later, but for now, that's probably just the best baseline I could get. It's just to have Disesh all pissy. Give me a third dice for a momentum, please.
Oh,
Reroll the 0.
Alrighty. Gaining 2 momentum, you definitely get the stable baselines of Desesh and both at the beginning, including the spike and the inevitable calming down from his four-legged friend. You kind of managed to get a half control subject, I suppose, would be the
What I would have been looking at for the majority of the scans would be the endocrine system, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, the thalamus, the thyroid, the adrenal glands, which would be the kidneys, and the pancreas.
Okay then.
Which are all the parts of the body which produce hormones. And if they have a hormone imbalance, then something is not being made somewhere. It has to come from one of those.
Fair.
Meanwhile, the captain, whatever Baharans they get to volunteer, or whatever she's asking their diet and their because of the amino acid deficiency. Some of them, like even for humans, we have to get some of them from the food we eat. There is no option. It's not naturally made. So she's gonna go through like a dietitian and be like, maybe they can bring her a sample of what they normally eat. She can break it down and see,
Absolutely. You do notice that there's there actually if we recall I'm sorry, if we recall one other thing that was a little bit strange. Actually, no, that wouldn't be. Never mind. Scratch what I was about to say. As you get a feel for their diet, you can tell that it's mostly grain and plant based, with the occasional meat of an animal that seems to be raised specifically for the said purpose. It's kind of the equivalent of Earth's cow, or and as they kind of fan out to rush through and give you samples, or get you samples, you can start to see the for the most part, their diet does seem overly weighted towards the grain, and the meat itself, as they explain to you, is typically eaten in small quantities and very sparing amounts.
Okay.
Push to talk.
I am pushing to talk.
All
Alright,
right.
then she is going to thank everybody. And if I remember correctly, these have a couple of different rooms in them. She will do see which basically look through records to see what a balanced Bajoran diet is. She's not going to use Desesh because he grew up on Earth, but she will use, I don't know, when Bashir had to treat Kira, I'm sure she had to go through a whole thing or something like that,
Mm-hmm. And just as you're getting settled in to do that for another time, Your comm badge chirps, interrupting you. This time, however, it's not Goodman.
Captain Morgana, go ahead.
Captain, I apologize. Do you have 30 seconds for a question?
Yeah, sure. She taps a couple of keys on the console. What is it?
The orb that was down on the planet. Thought it occurred to me. I don't know if there is a way to ask politely, and if it's not possible, I understand. If there's any way to ascertain if the orb has been accessed approximately 3 days and 16 hours ago, she's going to relay about the same time that she collapsed, and Nira could probably piece that together just in her own time of knowing what things happen. It's in an effort to rule out the outstanding possibilities.
She'll say, understood. And she will say, not dismissively or anything, and she'll go, is there anything else?
No, Captain, that was it. Hopefully everything else is going well.
She looks around to see if she's alone.
Desesh is outside, building the enclosure, and I'm not. Is Vanderveer? Did he return to the shuttle?
He's probably enjoying being outside on a planet, so he's probably working on a pad but standing outside, enjoying the scenery.
And then in which case, yes, you are alone.
And I toyed with the thought of making a very bad joke. She doesn't though. Well is going to be, relative. She says, but we'll send results up to the ship. She says.
Understood. We'll be here if you need us. Lawson out.
She will continue working for a little bit, and then once the search is started, she'll let Desesh know. She'll walk over to Desesh.
All right. When she does so, Desesh stops what he's doing, and Captain.
Commander, I'm going to go for a walk back into the town. She says, if you could keep an eye on the doctor here.
All right. You're gonna take Molly with you, right?
She nods.
Captain always says, dropping, well, not dropping, but gently placing down her piece of the enclosure as she straightens up at your approach.
We'll keep setting things up here, Captain.
She nods and says, well, Molly, you and I are going for a walk. Or Lieutenant, I guess is her rank. She says Lieutenant.
Yes, Captain, she says, as she dutifully starts walking about 3 or 4 paces behind you, and as she starts, you can see her head kind of moving left to right.
She'll just let her do her job. She understands security. She's just like, all right. Her uncle was a pain in the ass like that too.
And as you start walking into town, I think that's a good time to zoom up above a little bit back to the lab, where at the moment, our two scientists are slash engineers are encountering a psychosis and a power problem.
Well, extended use would create the psychosis. I think we can work on that one later. The strength, however, we have to do something about that, otherwise it won't be effectual. Let's see what we can do about pushing the power output. We'll see. We'll just start with the basics. We'll just add more. We'll just strap another battery to it and see how the output looks.
I love it. Since this is this a simulation or a practical project?
Oh, we're gonna go with practical, but not attached to anybody. And if I understand these batteries right, it's going to be behind a force field when it's on.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
smart. All right, so, let's just use this. Oh, you know what? Screw it. I typed in object. It's the first thing that came up. So, as the wrist or shoulder band pops into existence behind the force field, and you quickly realize that. I'm just gonna say, as you replicate it and then kind of connect it to a couple leads that will allow you to basically increase the power. All that's kind of left back as you step back and the force field springs into its existence. All that's kind of left is to really give it a shot. So, are you gonna? Let me ask you, how are you gonna introduce the extra power?
Everything's going to be wired up to begin with, but it's going to be set up to be remotely activated. So, and Jill's going to have her tricorder out, just scanning the thing and it's also going to be the activation switch.
So it's gonna look like Lioness's test PC. Everything just connected to everything.
Something like that. Yeah, we're going for function first, form later.
That is certainly fair. And are you kind of just periodically ramping it up, kind of like starting it at its basic and then?
Yeah, we'll adjust the regulator. Right now, it's set to just utilize the one battery, and the regulator will introduce the second battery's power over time.
Absolutely. Then why don't it's going to be a difficulty too. You can either both make a roll or you can do a main and assist. But why don't you give me a reason engineering or an insight engineering?
Okay, Kiana's going to assist. Sorry, what were the attribute options?
Reason or insight with engineering. I guess I'd take science too.
Astrophysics as a focus.
I would say no, but I will. I think
Warp field dynamics.
that's what I'm thinking about. I'm gonna say no, not for this one.
We'll take a threat for a third die. And here's Jill. And minute. Okay. Let's see. Any fun you think for yours that would work for you?
Convention thing or computers?
Computers, I will take.
Okay.
Oh, that didn't help.
That's okay. Pretty sure I put the difficulty at 2, so that is a success. As you as everything's connected and you start to ramp up the power, you see everything is fine until it gets to about 115 of max, and suddenly it's quite a good thing that you put out that force field, because on the test bench you can see that the shoulder pad itself has exploded a little bit, and the two of you quickly kind of realize and determine that it's a matter of size, because of the small nature of the shoulder pad. It simply can't handle the introduction of more power, and as you kind of start to do a couple simulations of what kind of power would be needed, you realize that at least if you were to want to keep it to a shoulder design, there's really no way in hell. It's certainly feasible to get that.
Next step was going to be just daisy chaining the actual devices together to see how far we get the output we'd be looking for, and then also
bandolier.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just make a bandolier of these pads, and once we have a strength we want, look at what the potential damage is going to be to the person wearing it.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So how about this? I think the actual construction of that is pretty easy to do, as the two of you are able to do that no problem. And as the two of you kind of step to different consoles to monitor, different aspects of the chain, as it were, and start to prepare the power to kind of feed through everything. Why doesn't one of you give me an insight medicine difficulty 1, and the other one give me a control science or engineering difficulty 1.
Maybe for you, insight medicine knowledge. Focus you want to go for?
It's still computer.
Or that.
Xenobiology.
Xenobiology, I'll take. Computers, I won't.
Okay. Alright, go.
Oh my.
And the engineering one, you said inside engineering?
Or no, then I misspoke. Reason or control.
Okay. Go with control engineering. Computer programming or warp field dynamics?
I will take the computer programming is close enough.
I give you the Bandobir.
Okay then, so everyone's gaining momentum, bringing you guys up to cap as Jill, you're able to successfully kind of match the theoretical strength needed, realizing that you would essentially need 9 of these kind of chained together as Kiana, as you're watching that result, you can kind of determine that trying to sync 9 of these together to work as one unit would probably work, but it would certainly aggressively enhance the issue of that snapback. So you realize that while power-wise, you guys are kosher and in the clear, that method at least has yielded a much worse result mentally. And that being said, yeah, that's where I'll stop talking.
Hey.
Can we utilize something to diffuse it?
Well, I will say after a couple moments, you guys do realize that the main thing causing the aggregation to the mental aspects is the fact that, well, there's physically 9 devices. You guys do kind of confer and realize that some of that could be avoided by paring down the amount of devices, just maybe making it bigger.
Okay. Then
Ronaton fanny pack, go.
I was that. But yeah, well, what about a vest? Yeah, we'll work with the vest.
Alrighty.
We'll just make one bigger one that's vest sized.
Last chance on the. While it doesn't necessarily need to be a fanny pack. It could also be a tactical belt that enhances the amount of pocket space one would have. Sorry.
Yeah, that work. The goal is to make just as big as necessary, not so big that it's another article of clothing. If it doesn't.
No, that's fair. And I think I think the surface area of a vest would certainly get the job done, though it would probably be a couple pounds. I think, truth be told, a fanny pack is probably a little too small. I'd say you're looking at probably an article of clothing or a small backpack?
Mercy.
Okay, and then, so are we? Is it a vest or is that just in my head for?
Now let's go with the vest.
That's certainly fair, and in this case, so I think you guys can definitely work together on this one, but I'm gonna say the actual construction is probably gonna be a little bit more difficult. Not overly so, uh, but I'm thinking a main and an assist. This time we're probably looking at a control engineering. Difficulty 3, but I'm gonna spend 2 threat to make it difficulty 4.
Okay. Okay. Kiana's gonna lead. Joel will assist, and we'll have the ship assist too. Since now that we know what we're doing, ships to help simulate and work models.
Yeah, I think computer science or computers engineering would be applicable.
And I'm sorry, it was control engineering.
Yes, or science. Actually, no, engineering, control engineering. You guys are actually building this thing.
Kind of a
Funniest part of that movie was that fucking vest.
the
It's okay if you don't have.
I don't know. Unconventional thinking?
I take cybernetics.
Oh, or cybernetics. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, go.
All right, so here is one.
Ooh.
So 2 more. Since we're using the computer, can I argue computer programming for Jill as a focus?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Is there any way I can argue reason instead of control?
No.
Okay. Let's. Right. And I'm grabbing the ship. There we
I absolutely will offer success at complication. Or,
Success at cost.
thank you. That's the.
Third seed.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Okay. As the two of you managed to construct this vest. Um, I'm gonna say that it is certainly a workable um, a workable offering as you guys kind of finish up and embedding all of this equipment in, and as you run the simulations to kind of confirm that, it would appear that uh, everything everything seems to check out, except um, except due to some of the extra power that you're gonna need. The vest itself is gonna run a little hot, not debilitatingly so, but just a little uncomfortable, and because of that, when someone's wearing it and using it, their complication range is going to go up by one. However, theoretically, they should be shielded from chronoton effects.
And the chances of the psychosis setting in.
With repeated use, absolutely. However, now that you've created one stable unit, it's essentially the same as the armband itself. There's no rise in destruction due to that.
Okay. Well, we have a working model. That's something.
Agreed.
Well, you want to give the commander the good news, or you want me to do it?
You can. He likes you better.
She'll smirk. She'll give a smirk at that and say, "Oh, so okay." And she'll go over to the console, and the first chime's going to go unanswered because she didn't know he was off the ship. And a few moments later, he'll combat will chime where he's on the planet.
Sash.
Commander, we have a working model of the chronoton shield that you requested. It's
Shield?
it is perfect, but it worked, and limited use only. Extended use of this will be detrimental to one's mental state. It induces the temporal psychosis disorder derived from the Enterprise D's version of a time shield.
Okay. Where are we on the chronoton weapon?
This is the defense.
Okay.
The commander.
Not
was
sure how I
listening.
get to wear it, but
It's a vest. It'll shield someone from interference, from what we know of the power rate.
right. Well, make sure that we have it available in the event that we can identify a target.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Commander.
Fresh out.
And after the comm line cuts out, Joel just give a sign and say, "Okay, now let's make this look decent."
All right.
And as the two once again huddle down, though this time for a bit less of a strenuous activity, we will head to Bahara, where Dr. Vanderveer, as the captain's been in the ship studying for a bit, and Desesh appears to be piously relaxing. What are you doing? Yes, I'm sorry. The captain wasn't studying. She was heading into town.
Although
Her search is still going. It's not going to take long.
Now she would have probably sent over the information on dietary intake.
Yes, it would. The moment it found one, it would have been sent to Vanderveer and her pad. What a
I just happened to be
visual
outside and noticing that they do have a grain-heavy diet. I see on the map there's a field. And that got me thinking. I want to walk off, maybe into the grass somewhere. You said there's a field, right?
Yeah, you're in kind of like I figure the openest place close to town for the shuttle would be essentially a field.
Somewhat light, like agricultural.
Yes, and you can see some farmland too. It's kind of you're on, there's a path, farmland, but you're on the field side of the path.
So in the middle of that field side, I want to walk out a little ways, and I want to find a rock. I want to turn it over, and I want to see if they have. I see all the different flora. I want to see like an example of maybe if they have regular old bugs and just kind of like small fauna, or does it seem weirdly quiet?
Interesting. You know what? Why not? As you lift up the rock, you can see something that you've probably seen, well, a couple hundred times back home. You see a worm or two kind of wiggling underneath the rock.
Okay. Well, worms are a beneficial type of insect. Are there people? Are those all like kids or something out in that field, or are those?
Those are your subjects, I think.
Yes.
Are those my volunteers?
Pretty much, yeah.
I kind of just want to talk to him for a minute.
Sure, and as you kind of wade into them, all of them are certainly willing to, but one of them steps up, kind of a little bit more eager to talk than the rest, I suppose, as he says, "Doctor."
Just looking around, and I noticed you guys do quite a bit of farming.
Oh yes, it's what we spend most of our days doing.
Do you guys have a lot of different professions, or are you guys mostly just kind of hanging out, doing your farming thing, having families and stuff?
We live a pretty simple life. We've mostly tend to our own structures. We're all pretty knowledgeable, but some of us specialize, of course.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, there's still small societies on Earth that don't like to use things even like electricity. I used to know a couple.
Oh, well, we use technology if needed. Certainly, it helps when we deal with the few outsiders that we encounter. However, and he gives a bit of a shrug as he says, "It simply isn't something we need overly in our life.
Oh no, that's entirely commendable. It's also good for the planet and stuff. When you live off the land, you tend to take care of it a little bit better. I'm somewhat of an outdoorsman myself sometimes. But I was wondering, you guys have any, like, pest insects?
Smiling a bit, he says, of course. However, they're typically more active in the summertime, which it is, but they don't seem to bother us too often. And, well, when they do, it's their world too, so.
And your farms, you don't use... How do you control those insects?
Looking a little kind of guilty, he says, We do use technology for that, Doctor.
Now, by technology, you'd be referring to the usage of some sort of artificial substance?
He gives a nod as you can see him kind of lean back and whisper into another Baharan's ear, and as he turns back to you, you can see the other Baharan run quickly, and from behind one of the fence posts, he brings back this kind of equivalent of a spray bottle.
Now, this stuff that you use right here, have you guys always used this stuff?
You can see them, most of the Baharans kind of nod in unison.
And by always, I mean... Well, I mean, we're talking this is like great-grandma's old recipe, right?
He he looks to you confused as he says, it's he just gives you a shrug. He says, we've been mixing it for as long as I've known. Certainly beyond my great-grandmother's lifetime.
So I was just checking. I like the traditional methods, you know.
Do you think
Peter does too.
That wasn't me.
Oh, Draco then. Probably, I guess. Or Desesh, I don't know.
Serenity, she wants a treat.
Peter's conked out. Lazy ass. Do you mind if I borrow this little bottle here for a little while?
You can have it, Doctor. Are we don't feel sick. I was just wondering, do we have an issue?
Well, my scans show that you guys are developing a lateral muscular atrophy, which is looking like a result of a hormonal imbalance. And just off the top of my head, I'm thinking that you might have some sort of outside chemical that is interfering with a protein synthesis that's preventing a certain amount of postmeiotic cellular regeneration and inhibition.
By this point, you've now can see just 8 flummoxed and befuddled people in front of you as they just nod.
Suddenly, 8 people's eyes glass over instantly.
Doctor's tricks.
So I was just gonna see what this stuff would do here because it's just a little odd.
Of course, Doctor. Do what you need to.
Which one of you is the youngest?
Another one kind of crops in. That would be me.
So, can I borrow you for about 10 minutes?
Of course, Doctor.
Thank you. I'm gonna head back to the lab with the bottle and the younger of the group.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, Nightingale Lab or Mobile Lab that
Mobile lab. The
Okay.
mobile lab should be good.
Excellent. And I'm just going to use the shuttle as a representation for that.
Yeah, out of character, near a figure, they can do just as much with a shuttle down here than taking them up to the ship, and it's more likely to get an okay.
Absolutely. And as the doctor actually brings him in, let's check up on Nira as it takes you a couple minutes to kind of locate the Kai, but eventually you manage to find him. I should probably have a signifier. I just remember which one the Kai is, but I'll put a little there we go. Purple Kai. Eventually you find him in front of one of the larger buildings, just kind of yucking with some of the people.
Yep. Hi, may I have a moment of your time?
Always.
She'll motion to a less crowded place.
Oh, of course, he says, as he kind of actually he stays where he is, but you can kind of see him kind of come now, come on, as he kind of waves off the crowd, and within
Nero will apologize profusely, and politely. Sorry, just need a moment.
no, and everyone kind of does the polite no, of course not, as the crowd disperses.
He says, Hi, I was curious. Is just come out and say it. Was anybody praying at the orb about 3 days ago?
Cocking his head with the smile, he says, well, 3 days ago, and you can see him kind of think back. He says, it was especially hot, so we shut most things down a little bit early so we could rest. However, during the day, yes, that was during our Holy Week.
Gee, nuts. Hmm.
Could you be a little bit more specific about when, or
She'll say the time and day.
as you know what, I'm gonna make that a little bit easier, as you kind of put your heads together and think about what kind of match the time. You realize that your ship time is slightly different from theirs, and the moment that Jill kind of had her episode, it was fairly early in the morning or very late at night, depending on your perspective. And as the Kai shakes his head, he says, "And I don't believe I can confirm this, but to the best of my knowledge, no one. That I would imagine most were asleep by then, or still sleeping."
She nods. She says, "My apologies for the odd question. It was a curiosity, cosmic coincidence, if you will."
Smiling a bit at that, he says, they seem to, well, uh, sorry, I had a complete mind blank there. Smiling at that, he says they do seem to come quite frequently.
She nods. Well, I apologize for taking up your time.
Oh, of course, Captain. And as you start to walk away, again your comm badge chirps.
As she's walking, she'll tap it. "This is Captain Morgana."
Captain, I'm sorry to bother you again down there. Goodman's voice comes through as he says, "It appears that Commander Reef is calling again."
She nods. She says, "Right, let him know. I'll contact him momentarily."
Excellent, Captain. Thank you. I'll, should I keep him on hold, or?
No, tell him I'll call him back.
Alrighty. Thank you, Captain. Goodman's voice.
We've been on hold for an hour.
No. And as the comm badge goes dead again,
She'll make her way back to the shuttle. She'll use a pad and call him that way, because she doesn't. As much as she cares about him, he's not important enough to leave an entire planet of sick people.
that's fair. And the doctor isn't actually in the shuttle, giving you a modicum of privacy as you walk past the other.
The session in there.
Oh, I thought you were. I'm sorry. I thought you were just. Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. He'll get up from what he's doing though, and he'll leave if the captain wants privacy.
No, she'll hold her hand up and just walk over and pick up a pad. She goes, "No, it's fine.
You do see me working on a phaser.
She raises an eyebrow. "I didn't know those were up for maintenance yet."
Well, forewarned is forearmed. Sesh smiles.
"Commander." She goes and sits kind of on the other side of the workbench. Is something amiss? She says.
Why do you ask, Captain?
She thinks for a moment and then just decides to drop it and says, "Never mind, it's probably old age paranoia," she says with a smirk.
Did you find what you were looking for?
She nods. I did.
Mhm.
And she will smile pleasantly and says, well, enjoy your phase of maintenance.
Do you
Although
want me to uh, prepare to expand this clinic if need be?
You probably should put one or two more shuttles on standby just in case, yes.
Yeah, I'll get everything organized.
She nods. And she'll kind of walk out, she'll tapping the pad on her hip. Yeah.
Alrighty. And as
And
the,
she'll walk out into the field where she's visible but no one's around her.
fair. As you kind of get the waiting symbol, as the pad makes a connection with 17, and about a minute later, you can see it wink to life with the Reef's picture. As you can see him say, Nira, and then kind of looking, you see him kind of looking a little befuddled around the screen as he says, "Oh, you're still on the planet."
Yes, I have a entire race of people that are not well. She says, what can I do for you, dear?
Uh, wanna make me an insight command or medicine? Difficulty 1, knockdown from 2.
Okay. Take threat, counseling as a focus.
Yeah.
I will roll.
What's up?
I think the sesh was saying something, I'm not sure.
No, I'm just typing.
Ah.
Um, as you gain a bonus momentum, you can see that Arif is looking pretty exhausted. But as he moves to answer you, he says, and he starts rubbing his forehead. He says, "Well, it's been a bit of a day. Apparently, the um, and he gives out a bit of a snort as he says, "Well, apparently, the Kuathians, the race that or the species I've been treating with here in 17, looks like they're about to undergo a civil war, and to top that off, well, it would appear that somewhere in their space, my XO's sister," and he gives a shrug, "is trapped. So it's been a bit of time here. How are you holding up over there?"
Again, planet full of sick people.
Are they terminal?
Well, not this generation of them, I don't think.
He says, "Well, I do a job over there, but I'll be honest, I was calling to, well," with a bit of a smile, he says, "ask you for a bit of a favor, but not really on my behalf."
She sighs. What is it?
"Well, you remember Holloway, don't you, Roger?"
She nods. Vaguely. She smirks.
Well, just so you know, he goes by Scots now, but ever since he was cleared, he's, well, been quite frankly looking for a purpose, and I've got him over here with me now, but I think, as you know, he has his peculiarities, and, well, quite frankly, it's riling up some of my crew.
So, you think he'd do better on my ship?
If you'll have him, you don't have to, of course, but what can I say? He's a good friend, and I that he's been a friend to you before too, and, well, you know he's able.
Fine, if you can get an admiral to sign off on his transfer. I don't see why not, but we're not leaving Bahara for a bit.
No, of course. I think just well, the knowledge that he has something to do now will help him immensely.
Well, you're responsible for getting him to me. I'm not coming to you this time.
Of course, Arif says. I'd be happy to.
Right.
So, anyway, dear, I need to go. Some of us actually have real work to do. She smirks.
Looking incredibly pained, though you can tell that it's an act. He kind of clutches his chest as he says, A2, and the screen just kind of winks off.
Says, well, he was the one that plunged the last knife in. I don't know why he's being an ass. She says jokingly about his age, mostly to herself, making reference that he is Brutus.
Indeed, and as the captain starts to walk back, the doctor is in the tent with the pesticide and the younger one.
I need to call Desesh over. Hey, could you come here?
Mr. Desesh, you see, or you know what? He's in the shuttle, so you get a little chirp on your badge with Vanderveer's voice saying, "Hey, can you come here?"
That's just muted.
Oh no, have we decided?
Keep forgetting I do that. Yeah, he's only like 20 feet from me if he's in the tent, so I just wander over.
Now, Desesh,
Yeah?
I'm sorry about earlier. What I was doing was I needed to get a stress response. The condition isn't genetic at all. It seems to be a hormonal imbalance.
Okay.
Now,
So
I've
you're
got a
alive?
pesticide here to run some tests on, but in the meantime, I have another test that I need to run with you and this young gentleman with me. Now, you see, hormones are chemical messengers in the body that tell it to secrete certain substances. And there's only two ways that hormone synthesis is going to fail. Either you're not getting what you need to make it, or the body is for some reason not absorbing it. And there's a bit of a saying in the medical community that when in doubt, check the poop.
Sesh's brow furrows. Okay.
So I need to collect a stool sample from you and this young man.
All right.
Oh,
Jesus, I'm sorry.
All right. Desesh says, "I'll be back in a moment." I wander back onto the shuttle.
Yeah, and the kid as well departs for a moment, and I'm 100% fine not role playing that out as we all gather back at the tent 5 minutes later, samples
That's a big
in
push.
hand. No, I believe me, we know it's not a joke. Um, that doesn't make it any less funny.
But
Desesh returns with a small receptacle in his hand.
what I want to do once I have retrieved the samples is I want to compare what has absorbed. Now, when something makes it through the digestive tract, there's various like byproducts and nutrients that are left in fecal matter. And if something is not something, if something is wrong with the kid on a level where he's not absorbing a particular, perhaps vitamin, mineral, or nutrient that he needs to form one of these protein or one of these hormones through proteins, he's going to be passing it through in a much larger amount. So by studying the composition, since I know what their diet is and I already know what those byproducts are, I'm looking for what nutrients his system has passed without absorbing.
Oh, okay. I get it. As as you as you kind of hunker down to compare the samples, why don't you give me a control engineering? I'm sorry, a control or reason. Hello, medicine difficulty uh, two. Yeah, two. And Desesh, if you would, I'm perfectly fine with the assist. You can either assist on the medical level should you want to, or just through command dignity with presence and command.
Yeah, I might as well direct the action. Sure.
Give me 2 extra dice for 3 momentum.
We can use the computer too, right? From the shuttle.
I don't think we'll.
Yeah, you can, but as I don't think you'll need it. Even
Yeah, I think we're good. You're already just you're going to be straight bonus, so that's
you do happen to have a bonus momentum, but as you compare the samples, you realize that no, they are different. Discounting some of the obvious factors, which is just the differences in food that they've eaten. You can tell that while Desesh's body is just double check my notes. While Desesh's body is essentially healthy, and so is his stool. The younger person, it lights up almost like a Christmas tree. That, as you said, it's obvious that he's not getting something that he needs. You can actually discount the fact that his body isn't naturally producing it, or that there's an issue naturally producing it. I'm trying to. You basically um, you basically understand that it's a product of the environment and not the person, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying
So what you're saying is he is not getting the intake he needs. It's not that he's passing on something required, it's that he's not getting it altogether.
Yes.
Okay. Now, for that bonus momentum, can I just cross-reference everything that Desesh is getting that he is not? Because that is a straight Venn diagram of what is it in Desesh's diet or intake that is not produced by this guy. And this is... I want to do a pellagra test. Essentially what it is a pellagra test. So if you eat a corn-based diet, you lack a vitamin B complex, and your skin falls off, like scurvy. And the reason is because even though that this nutrient is present in the food, you have to process corn in alkali water for it to be bioavailable.
Okay. I will try to run with that. I'll definitely take the bonus momentum for that. And
So something Desesh is getting, this kid isn't, which is just going to be like a straight bullet point list.
Okay, so I can simply because my medical knowledge is lacking a little bit. I can't tell you the exact chemical or nutrition. However, as you lock on the specific one that the kid isn't receiving and that Desesh is, and you start to cross-reference it with the scans that either you or helpfully Maxwell started to make as you were otherwise busy, you realized that the chemical itself is typically found in more of the grain side of the spectrum than the meat or the plant. And excuse me, the grain itself appears exceedingly sporadic and thoroughly weak of the enzyme or the building block needed to correct this imbalance.
Okay.
So the lacking amino acid is what's killing them, as it were.
Hey, kid.
Yeah.
You guys store and process your wheat. Do you use silos?
No. He says typically we take what we need for the day. We don't tend to need to store much, and yeah.
Kid, don't mess with me now. You gotta have some kind of grain processing. You don't just eat it right out of the ground.
A couple moments later, you can see one of the other Baharans kind of waft into range, and as he says, we've got a small facility. However, most of the time it lays dormant. Usually we use it once or twice a year.
Then grain storage.
I'm sorry, all I heard was grain storage.
Armament, grain storage?
Sorry, one more time.
Armament, grain storage?
Armament.
You said dormant?
Oh, most of the time. No. I'm sorry. The processing facility lays dormant most of the time. The storage isn't huge, though he does offer to take you through the to it or through it.
That won't be necessary. Bring me some of your raw wheat and some of your processed ready-to-use flour.
Nodding, a couple minutes go by before they're brought to you.
Now, if their process of making their food is removing this nutrient, it won't be present in what's ready to use. If it's not in the wheat altogether, then it's not going to be in the raw wheat at all. So I want to test for that particular amino for them that's just not present.
Absolutely, and just because I know we're starting to get a little bit into it in time, I'll say that while you can easily determine that it's lacking in both the flour and the raw, you're pretty familiar with this grain as it is a almost perfect replica of Earth. So the grain is quite naturally one that you're quite used to, but and you know that typically Earth grain does actually include this this chemical.
Well, then that's an easy fix. We've got it.
Yeah. I mean, we would have. Well, no, yeah, we could.
All you need to do is harvest your grain and transport it into a storage facility so that you have a surplus of grain. The surplus of grain that you have is what you process into ready-to-use wheat and flour, which possesses an additive of the chemical you are lacking.
No.
All you need to do is enrich your bread.
I might have said that wrong. It's not present in the starting grain either.
It's
Yes.
not in the DNA of the grain.
Which means it can be it can be enriched into the processed flour. It's not. If it's not in the wheat to begin with, then it's not a matter of whether they're getting it or not. It's the problem. The problem isn't them. It's the wheat. It is a dietary intake issue. They just need enriched flour, like what we buy from the store. When you buy enriched bread product, that's what it means. It's bread that's had other stuff added into it that you need that's not normally in the bread, but they enrich it so that you can just eat bread and actually, for poor people. Or why they put vitamin D in milk so that you make so that your bones absorb calcium when you get sunlight.
So it's like Wonder Bread.
Yeah.
Fair enough. As you know what?
It's just a weird mechanism because they're Bajoran.
That is certainly fair, and I will say, assumption wise, just in general, you've got a pretty good idea that would certainly fix the Baharans, but it would do nothing for the grain.
No, it doesn't. Their grain sucks. They either need to use a different grain or enrich the grain. But we have an immediate fix. Now, out of character, the biggest implication is going to be what this is going to do to their ability to process and handle aggression. Because they might break out into a lot more fistfights now. So that's going to have to be addressed. And since they are immediately dying to the point that they don't even know they're sick, we have time to bring it up to them, which probably isn't going to be my forte. But I figured out how to prevent them from dying from it eventually, and how to prevent it in the future. It's going to have to be getting them to recognize that there is an issue and determine whether or not they want to deal with violence.
That's fair, and well, quite frankly, I think that is a pretty good question. And I know both Kiana and Joe have kind of finished the main thrust of their task, and it's certainly a debate and discussion I'd like to get to. Does anyone have any major issues if I kind of skip the clock an hour or two and kind of put you guys into a meeting?
Can I roll for my pauser?
Absolutely. Sorry. Who just?
Joe.
What would that be? Like a
That's.
engineering?
I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Um. Um. Where? This is in the. This is in the shuttle, correct?
Yep, that's where I've been working. I figure there's a replicator in there, so.
I'm thinking. All right, you know what? I'm gonna do it like this. Um, I think it would be pretty. I think that's a pretty heavy project. That probably warrants more than a task, but I also think Desesh has been pretty laser focused on this issue, and I think sometimes that type of focus and adrenaline, for lack of a better thing, can kind of allow the singer to outdistance the song. So I'm thinking either control or reason with engineering, definitely. I'm gonna
Does my phaser focus apply?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna put the difficulty. Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna put the difficulty at 5 with the qualification that if the uh, Ambo assists, I think I'm gonna spend 2 threat to raise the difficulty by 1.
All right. I am since this is a reflection of Desesh's sheer stubbornness. I want to invoke my value. I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll give me 2 successes, and I would like to spend 3 momentum, please.
All right. Alrighty. Effectively bringing the difficulty down to 3.
All right. Let's see how this goes.
Well, you gain a momentum back as you toil for a little bit as you kind of like just try to kind of cram this into a phaser, into a workable beam, um, and as you do it just doesn't seem to be working, but you kind of once again uh, your mind kind of flashes to the last couple days, and with renewed determination you kind of just um, barrel through the project. And as you um, as you sit back and finish, you realize that while it's far from perfect and will certainly need to be improved, it's got, because of the increased power load, a couple shots before it just fries itself. You have the at least rudimentary beginnings of this. Well, screw it. Time goes.
More shots than I had before.
That's fair. One more shot than you had before. As
All right, I go to the meeting.
Indeed, and as you look up and realize there's no one around, and everyone goes about their business for a couple hours, we will return us into our conference room as soon as I find it. There we go. As the five of you gather together, and if you want any NPCs, I'm happy to bring them in.
I don't think we
Might
need
bring a
any-
lieutenant in that's just probably going to be my like from the quartermasters, just because I want to have someone to kind of work with me on logistics for if we're like dealing with a infrastructure issue. We you know,
That is
I figure
fair.
out organizing that.
All right. In which case, Nelson Vans. Nelson nods to everyone pleasantly and sits back. One thing going into this, though, I should say, I realize I didn't explicitly say it, Doctor. You do realize that this cure, as it were, will certainly fix the deficiency. It'll basically fix everything that's not working, including their potential aggressive tendencies. After all, you have Desesh right next to you, and he's not a...
Well, my primary concern would be them going from a period of repressed aggression to experiencing it, which might cause some amount of instability. Just because if it's repressed in them now, then until they sort of adjust to it, that might cause a bit of... Some people might be having a difficult time adjusting, which is why I think it would be important that we appeal to the Kai as a religious leader, because his job, appointed by the prophets, is to look after the people that are supposed to follow him as an example. So he's going to become a very busy man for the foreseeable future.
I mean, there is a certain amount of PR that we're going to have to deal with too. This having like a aliens show up and want to suddenly add things to our food is a bad look. We're going to have to make sure that is...
You're going to be valuable as our liaison to that, being genetically similar yourself. And what's nice is they've been amicable so far, so if we present the evidence to them in the right way, they might be more receptive to it. Again, they don't really know that they're sick, so that might also present an issue. We might just have to leave a calling card for when it does become an issue, because ethically you cannot force them to accept treatment or help.
I mean, if the help starts destabilizing their society too, there's a real possibility that they'll just stop taking it too.
I would be on board with bringing the issue before the Kai solely by himself and seeing his reaction to it.
Certainly.
And not looking at sovereignty aside, if I remember correctly, they are actually genetically identical to Sesh, more or less.
Precisely. If Desesh were to live on this planet, his body would also fail to synthesize this necessary protein. He would become more docile over time, but the issue is something in Bajoran physiology is preventing muscle regeneration, post-meiotic cellular regeneration.
Well, no, I was leaning into your recommendation to use.
Hold on. Sorry. Clarification, Vanderveer. You would know that this would have the same effect in humans as well.
She says I was actually agreeing with your recommendation that we use that the commander. She doesn't say use, but she says that the commander speak with them. With Kai. Perhaps accompanied, but have the commander do most of the talking. His team is
Come up with a way to sell it.
She nods, and I'm sure the database has plenty of historical records of any number of humanoid species that work similar. If you require those as well.
I think it's probably more important that we make sure that this will work culturally with their history and expectations. So there may be some steps there that need to be taken so that we know what kind of a pitch they'll be receptive to.
Perhaps we could even introduce a different agricultural crop that has this particular vitamin that they'll find quite pleasant.
They are isolated on one continent. I think that's a little underhanded, though. I think that's a pretty that's a fallback.
I mean, maybe they'll like rice as much as they like grain. Perhaps there's a
Even then,
species of
we
brown
could-
rice with this component that is required.
Even then, we can still just generate a variant of their normal crops with what they
Dwarf-
need. I would just recommend being honest about it and explain while we're explaining what's happening, that just use that as another viable solution.
Honesty is plan A, but I think I need to talk to the Kai.
Very well. That being said, you can choose.
Calling it Plan A gets an irritated look from Jill.
And that's why there isn't two doctors leading this ship, she says with a smirk.
All right.
Right. So, again, either explain to them the added. Sorry, my brain just ruined the word. The processor, the extra processing step. She says, if that doesn't fly, try the alternate grain and or possible manipulation of their crops. Being that it is, for all intents and purposes, regardless of name, Earth, we should have any number of plants that and foods that we can provide them to grow, she says, with a wealth of knowledge on how to grow them in the soil they have. So,
Well, if the doctor is the doctor and I will basically work on a presentation for the Kai, and we'll I think maybe tomorrow we'll beam down and present it.
She nods. That sounds like a plan. Oh, Lieutenant Commander, you will be, in some point in the near future, you will be receiving a new security officer. And it's Lieutenant, yeah? For Scott?
Yes.
Lieutenant Scott. She says. Transfer from DS-17.
And all of the sudden, actually not all of the sudden, never mind.
Jill nods, and there's a quizzical look on her face, but as soon as you mention 17, it just goes blank. Okay.
She nods. So the blanking, I will roll. Insight, medicine, or command to, because 1, counselor, 2, Ilorian.
Yeah, your pick. And yeah, you can use counseling.
Excellent. We'll go with medicine. And I will spend a momentum just because. That's why.
Yeah, it's the exact moment you said transfer from 17 that everything seemed to have explained itself, and she's not thrilled with the idea with how with where they're coming from.
Yep. She will. She'll
And her
pull
being
up.
quiet is just being polite.
She'll pull up his file and slide it over to Jill, and says, "Regardless of your reservations, he is quite the qualified officer."
Desesh, as she does that and you catch a glimpse of it, you actually, almost for a second, seems like you recognize the guy.
May I see that, Commander?
Jill's gonna skim it first, get the details, and then quietly hand it over.
Who is it?
You can see the face of Roger Holloway.
Who was that again?
He was he was one of the material witnesses in Jonathan's.
Oh, right, you sent me a message about that. Let me just toss over about that. What's that?
He was at the time he was a member of the Maquis, as the face goes.
Okay.
He was a character witness for Jonathan Forrest, and he seemed like a pretty swell guy.
I used one of his fellow Maquis as a character witness?
If I remember,
Either he was a character witness, or you met him through that time, or you took his deposition, or.
Well, I mean, I just imagine, like, if it's one of his fellow.
So honestly, the
witness to like events rather than a character witness. I imagine that, given that it's Jag, I imagine using
just
it.
trying to be vague because that's a crossover for the future. It hasn't happened yet.
Certainly. I'm just, yes, I used him in some way involving things. So I'm like, yes, I'm familiar with him. Wait a minute, but he's under a different name, though. You just said that his name was Lieutenant Scott?
Scott. Yes, she nods. She just looks
Recognize this man, but not by that name.
Does his file give both names?
Sorry, I have to think about that.
While you're thinking about that, to Morgana's remark, I don't doubt his qualifications. It's the intent that concerns me.
Yes, the file gives both names.
Is he intelligence?
No, he's stationed as security. Just a regular run of the mill. It's got a bit of his record. He was a Starfleet officer, achieved glowing recommendations and results, left Starfleet, was a Maquis officer, or not officer, but was a member of the Maquis. A lot of that is redacted. However, it does mention both names, and he's spent the last several years floating from post to post. No starships.
Which name was he born with?
I Okay, you've unknowingly put me in a personal quandary. I'm
While
gonna
you're
have
thinking
to-
about that, Captain, did you initiate this transfer request?
She nods and said yes. I did.
You asked for him to be here. Okay.
She nods.
Well, I guess
Sorry,
we'll have the
someone's gonna
opportunity.
have to roll me insight command on that. With leadership as a focus.
Okay.
That's good. I'll buy a third die for a momentum.
You got 2 1s and a 0.
Okay. That is what it is.
Is it opposed or?
That's up to you.
Well, knowing how they feel about Arif. Yeah, I'll do presence command. And take the threat. So I will roll a third die.
Yeah, it stands.
He nods. So, is there going to be a problem with you working with the Lieutenant Commander? She says, looking at the sash.
Wait, what? No.
She nods. Because he knew her. He knows him prior. That's why she asked.
No, I simply worked with him before.
She nods. Well,
I just didn't know he had two names. Apparently he developed a second one.
She, smiles at that. Well, it's good to every decade or two to spice things up a bit, he says with a smirk.
Well, he was a fairly genial guy when I met him. He was an associate of one of my defendants.
She nods. I've met him a few times in passing as well, she says.
I'll be interested to find out how he got his pardon, but, other than that.
She nods, says, "Well, with that being said," she says, "I'm sure we have some people to convince to get healthy."
Um,
And an admiral to prepare for.
time wise, do you guys want to keep going with that now? Do you want me to hit the to be continued sign now, or do you want me to like?
Well, us
Us breaking up to go do our things is kind of a perfect to be continued thing.
It's a good time for it, but if anyone kind of wants like something.
Probably 1 second.
If anyone does want something specific, I definitely can go for that. I think I think that certainly with the intents to wait until tomorrow morning to beam, excuse me, down to Bahara. I think that's best taken care of next week.
Yeah, the only things I have is the accommodations are easy to set up. That's not that's not an issue. But I mentioned about the vest being able to possibly being able to emit a pulse. Which, if that's going to be going into the weeds again, we can do that next week as well.
Well, at some point, Dasesh is going to let you know that he already did it.
And believe me, there's going to be some necessary construction avenues with that to get it humming the way it should be.
Yeah, like I did it on the planet, but I'm going to share the work with Harkuri when I get a moment. So, like, it's not going to be a secret.
I'm good with holding off till next week. But
Yeah.
All right. So, granted, you guys managed to evade this to be continued screen for this session and last session. Probably my fault, but since there's no way I'm gonna get to use it next week, because that's gonna happen like a half hour in. To be continued.